I'm Mary Rachel Brown. I'm a playwright and a dramaturg. I'm currently in residence at Griffin Theatre Company as their inaugural Suzie Miller Fellow. I'm very happy to be with you today, and hopefully I'm able to give you a few tips on how to create a really cracking first 20 pages for your Griffin Award submission. First of all, I wanted to talk to you about world building. It's a term you've probably heard before. It's bandied about across all story platforms. It basically refers to the art of creating an authentic sense of time, place, atmosphere, and culture. A really rich and detailed world that your characters inhabit. A good way to think about world building and to reference it for you is if you've ever seen a play where once it's finished, you felt like you could imagine the world of the play existing before it begun, and once the play was over, you felt like the world of the play would continue. That is an indicator of a writer who has worked very, very hard and in great detail and in great specificity in terms of thinking about the world, and in most cases has not had their characters contradict the culture of that world. I'm going to read you the stage directions from the play I'm currently working on, and hopefully they are an example of how you can basically start your world building without directing or without playing designer within your stage directions. So here we go. Pia switches a lamp on. It flickers. She moves the cord. The flickering stops to reveal a shambolic lounge room, furnished with a mix of IKEA and stuff from the street. Think lots of crushed velvet and angry 80s art. Pia puts Oh Superman by Laurie Anderson on the turntable. She picks up a pink jumpsuit, surveys it, and abandons it. Okay, so let me indicate to you where I was planting some world-building seeds. First of all, I mention a lamp that is flickering and one of the characters is fiddling with the cord. So already on a metaphoric level, I'm building my world. I am saying there is something in this world that's not functioning and that is broken and is discordant. And the audience won't necessarily realize that on a conscious level, but all these things accumulate subconsciously within their relationship to the story. Next, I mentioned that when the lamp comes on, it reveals a shambolic lounge room furnished with a mix of IKEA and stuff from the street. So there I'm talking about the economic status of the world. This is not a world that's moneyed. I also mentioned crushed velvet and angry 80s art. So there I'm pointing to the time that the world exists to, or I'm referencing a touchstone. Either this play is set in the 80s or either it is inhabited by characters that have a very specific relationship to the 80s. Maybe they grew up in the 80s, they're stuck in the 80s, but we've established something about that time. I then reinforce that time by talking about Laurie Anderson. That's a song that came out, her song Oh Superman came out in 1981. I'm also giving a nod to the feminine nature of this work. And I'm also tying into the angry 80s art. And this is a play that has some divergent themes in it and a character who lives in a bit of a divergent laneway. And so angry 80s art is divergent, and certainly you could argue that Laurie Anderson's Oh Superman song is quite divergent. And then it's always lovely to pop in a question there, a little bit of dramatic ambiguity. There's a pink jumpsuit that is picked up, considered, and abandoned. So why is it there? Why is it rejected? It's always great to plant a few questions for your audience. But I suppose the big question is, why do we go to the effort of world building? And this goes to what is the intention of our story. So in terms of that, you can pause this video and speak to what's the intention of your work. And now you've got me off pause. Why? Why is the work happening? Why is the story building? And that should relate to what your character wants. What do they need? What is their desire? And what is the obstacle in front of this desire? So first of all, I just ask you to write down what your character wants, and then take some time to write down what is getting in the way of their want, their desire. Next question is, what tactics do they use to pursue what they want? And then also, is what they want a public or private desire? Usually you'll find that a lot of characters have a very strong interior world, and their deep desire is buried in their interior world, and the exterior world of the play gradually encroaches on that interior world, puts pressure on it, and drives it to the surface. So it's really important to think about whether your character's desires and goals are public or private. And whichever way they land, if they're public, is there something in the engine of the play that drives that public desire from being a public thing to an internal thing? If it's external, what pressure points are there in your play that drive that internal need to the external? Lastly, I wanted to talk to you about dialogue. Dialogue is such a big litmus test for whether someone can write or not. And I don't think it can be taught. I think it's inherent. But there are a few little tricks you can do just to pressure test your dialogue before you submit your award. And that is to think about differentiation of voice. If your character, if you have more than one character. And a good way to do this is to just look down the page, and if everyone speaks at exactly the same, so if everything is a nice even 3 lines or 2 lines, then your characters are speaking at a similar scale of economy, and that is problematic because some people are verbose, some people are economic. And some people use big words, some people use little words, some people are equivocating, some characters you'll find you use ... more. But if all your characters have 3 ... it means you've created, let's say, 3 characters that are all reflective and equivocating. That's probably going to be problematic. So do a sweep through the real mechanics of how your punctuation works and also the volume of your lines. And if there's too much consistency between each character, then you've possibly got a problem. They should all work differently in terms of volume and expression in terms of your punctuation. This is a really important one. We're hardwired as human beings not to answer questions directly. Listen to conversations and you'll notice that people rarely answer questions directly. So if you have, and people really ask questions directly. So if you have characters, whoops, sorry, I went dark. If you have characters asking each other questions directly a lot during your script and answering these questions a lot, you possibly have a problem. As an audience member, it is such a big lean-in moment when a character is asked a question and they avoid it. It makes us immediately go, what are they hiding? Why don't they want to tell that person the truth? And it creates a dramatic tension. So do a sweep through and look at how your characters answer questions. Another thing is cadence. I was talking about how characters' desires often work from the internal, and something in the external world keeps putting pressure on them, and then they reveal themselves externally. Think about how your character maybe changes the way they speak when they're under pressure. Observe in the people around you and in your characters the different way strong emotion, anger, sadness, love, hate, fear, how that affects language, and make sure you're painting authentic pictures of that within your script. Another thing that's fun to play with is code switching. Look at the context your characters are in. Are they in a formal situation? Or are they in a very familiar situation, and how does that change their language? It's really fun to have characters speaking a certain way and then have someone enter the room that makes them code switch their language patterns. So maybe consider opportunities like that within the work. The last thing I want to offer you, and it's a really fun thing to play with, and I encourage you, once you've finished watching this workshop, to be brave and give it a go. Save your draft, copy and paste it into a new document, and really give this a go and see what it does to your work. Throw in what I like to call a wild card ingredient. And most of the time, a wild card ingredient is something that is a surprise that comes in from the external world. It usually doesn't arise from the internal world. It's usually environmental. So let me, okay, I'll just riff here and give you an example. Say you had two characters in a restaurant breaking up. So here's an example of some great external wild cards you could throw at them. One, the air conditioning's broken and it's a heat wave. And then after you've thrown in your wild card ingredient, ask a secondary question. What's the cause and effect of this wild card ingredient? Does one character blame the other for choosing this restaurant? Who chose it? And also it's great if your wild card puts more pressure on the characters. There's nothing better, I'm sure you've heard it 100 times, than watching characters under pressure. What else could you have? A clumsy waiter. Are they being clumsy on purpose? Does this clumsy waiter know one of the people who they're serving? Another external pressure could be, is there a spider? Is there a bug? Secondary question, are these two people ignoring it? Or how are they reacting to it? Is there blame? Is there fear? And how does it divert them or bring them closer to their goal? You could have the parents, sitting 2 seats down. Did one of them give the parents their heads up to be there at the restaurant, or just is it a horrendous coincidence? Is there an allergic reaction? And is this allergic reaction real, or is it staged? So although you can make your ingredient, your wildcard ingredient, really fun, always ask the secondary question. So you can not just throw it in there randomly, but you can make sure it has a really enriching cause and effect on your work. I wish you so much luck. I hope my suggestions have been helpful. And my final tip for you is, as someone who's read a lot of work and been on quite a few judging panels, when people say 20 pages, don't go over 20 pages. And also, if you can do it in a nice, neat 15, don't try and force out 16, 17, 18. So that's another little tip for you. Good luck. Enjoy your writing, and be true to the rules of craft, but set your imaginations free.